Hello, and welcome to Verbling. I'm teacher Oakley. For the next hour or so, we are going to be looking at the past perfect continuous verb tense, how it is formed, and how it is used, as well as some particulars, nuances, specifics, necessary information when using this verb tense. Students who join me, I'll have you form your own sentences to illustrate the use of the verb tense which we're talking about. So here we go. Past perfect continuous specifically. And exactly how it is used. So plenty of room in the class. Come on in and join me and we'll get started. Past perfect continuous is pretty specific as to its usage. Pretty much the same as past perfect, which we actually looked at last week, exactly a week ago. In any case, the past perfect continuous is very much the same. So first, let's take a quick look at how it's formed. Okay. First, let me welcome Carolina to the class. Hi, Carolina.
Hello, teacher.
Hello. Hello. Welcome, welcome. Okay. We're going to look at past perfect continuous. So, all right. Well, hang on. We've been joined by Julian. Hello, Julian. Welcome to the class.
Hello, Oakley. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. Thank you for asking.
Great. Glad to hear it. Okay. I'm going to do a screen share and we'll start looking at past perfect continuous here. All right. Here we go. First, how it is formed. Okay, always the same. Two helper verbs or auxiliary verbs always had been, and then the present participle. The present participle, if you don't know, is simply the verb plus the ing ending. Okay, the main verb. That's it. Okay, this is what it looks like in a sentence. You, the subject noun, the person or thing, whatever, that does the action. Then our verb construction, had been waiting. Okay, had been waiting there for more than 2 hours when she finally arrived. Okay, notice that there's a second clause with another action. In the question form, as always, regardless of verb tense, the first auxiliary, remember I said there are two, had and been. First auxiliary is transposed or reversed, switched with the subject noun, whatever it is. Okay, so had you been waiting there for more than 2 hours when she finally arrived? All right, the rest of the construction is the same. And finally, in the negative, the not adverb, the negative, is added after the first auxiliary. First auxiliary is always important in construction. First auxiliary for all verb tenses is always important. It's always the same. In the question, it's going to go first in the sentence. In a negative, the not will follow the first auxiliary. Now, it is possible to contract you and had to you'd not been waiting, but more often than not, native speakers in spoken English tend to contract the first auxiliary in the negative. So more likely than not, you would actually say this: you hadn't been waiting there. Like written, it would look like this: hadn't. Okay, and then the same thing again. Notice in the phrases, there's a time phrase in here for more than 2 hours, and there's another clause here, a different action. All right, that is because our number one use, and really the only use, past perfect continuous is very basic. Like past perfect, it really only has one kind of function. And that is to show that something started in the past and continued up until another time in the past. Again, phrases like for 5 minutes, for 2 weeks, phrases that express duration of time. These are very common when using basically all continuous tenses, really, because when we use a continuous tense, frequently we have an option. Use a continuous tense or a simpler form. All right, the whole reason you're using the continuous tense is to put emphasis on the verb or the action, and also to highlight or stress the time. In our previous sentences, the verb wait, a lot of the time we use wait in a continuous form, because when we're expressing that idea, we probably, most likely, are expressing the idea that we had to wait a very long time, we're frustrated. So we would choose to emphasize that by using a continuous tense. That's fairly normal. Okay. Okay. Notice this is very important. This is related to the continuous tense. These time phrases, that is, are related to the continuous tense. The duration does not continue until now. Instead, it stops before something else in the past. This little purple X. So, for example, they had been talking for over an hour before Tony what? Where's the rest of the sentence? Okay. It's gone. Oh, there it is. Before Tony arrived. Okay. All right. They had been talking for over an hour. That is indicated in our little illustration here by the green line. That green line represents the past perfect continuous tense. Tony arrived is represented by the purple X. So we know that this green line is an hour, or actually over an hour, really. Oh, okay. Some other examples. She had been working at that company for 3 years when it went out of business. Notice our purple X. Actions: Tony arrived, it went out of business. Notice that this interrupting action is always in the simple past tense. Okay. How long had you been waiting to get on the bus? All right. It is not necessary. And while this question, we're asking how long was the duration. Okay. So it's not completely necessary to include a duration. It's just very common. For example, Mike wanted to sit down because he had been standing all day at work. Well, all right, all day. It's there. Okay. Notice in this construction, the purple X, the interrupting action goes first. And we have a connective with another clause after. It makes no difference because we have two clauses. It never does make a difference in English which clause you choose to put first. Really doesn't make any difference to the meaning of the sentence. Okay, lots of them with before, but you can also see we've got because, cause and effect. Okay. All right. All right. In a dialogue form, how long had you been studying Turkish before you moved to Ankara? I had not been studying Turkish very long. I had been studying for 3 years. Notice in the reply, since we already have established what this interrupting action is, you move to Ankara. Since we've already established that, it's not necessary in a conversation to repeat it. Also, if you're writing and you're writing a paragraph, it's not necessary to reference this interrupting action in every single sentence. Basically, the general rule in writing is as long as you reference it in the paragraph, in the course of that paragraph, you can refer back to that already established time and still correctly use past perfect or past perfect continuous. Okay. All right, let's see if we can, using the examples that we've looked at here and talked about, let's see if you guys can come up with your own sentences to show duration before something else. Carolina, you want to try it first?
Yes, teacher. Yesterday I was studying,
Okay,
studying.
sorry.
When I when he called me. He
Okay. Um, okay, that's fine. Yeah. Yesterday I was studying when he called me. All right, just noting that it happened in the past. Um, sure. Okay. Here we don't really have a time phrase to show the duration, like for 2 hours or something. I was studying when he called me. Now, okay, this is fine, but this is past continuous, not past perfect continuous. To show an interrupting action. What's the difference? Okay, in your sentence, you did not use past perfect. So, what that would mean if we relate, your sentence is correct, but it's not using past perfect continuous. What that means is that green line might continue past the X. Maybe you went back to studying. Okay. The difference is past perfect continuous. This green line cannot continue after. All right. It ends when the other thing happens. All right. She'd been working at the company when it went out of business. There's no way it can continue. It had been talking for over an hour. All right. The difference is when you use just regular past continuous to show an interrupting action, you're emphasizing the fact that you were interrupted, really. When you use past perfect continuous, you're basically saying you're done and then something else happened, or you finished because something else happened.
Okay,
Which,
I can say I had been studying when he called me.
okay. Yeah. So the slight change in meaning is that now your studying is finished.
Mhm.
Right? I can understand that you're done. All right. Right. Okay. Julian, you want to give it a try?
Sure. I have been learning English over 7 months because I gonna do the IELTS at the finish of this year.
Okay.
Yes, because
Because.
I gonna do the IELTS test. The IELTS, sorry.
I what? The IELTS test? What's your verb?
Because I gonna do.
Ah, ha, ha. Ah, okay. Wait a minute.
Okay. The IELTS test at the finish of this year, or at the end of this year.
Okay. Now, the thing is, I am going to do, all right, this is a simple future, a plan in the a future. So, in reality, you're a day ahead of things. Tomorrow's lesson is a future perfect continuous, in which case, really, this is what you need. I will have been learning English for over 7 months, because now you're interrupting action. See, now you're interrupting action. Everything is this whole green line, purple X. This is all in the future.
Yes.
I'm going to take at the end of the year. That's in the future. So shift this whole green line, purple X thing. We don't know if he started in the past or at the present or what, but we sure know that he's taking the test at the end of the year. So actually, what you would want here is tomorrow's lesson is the
Okay.
future perfect continuous. All right. Um, okay. So I had been learning English for over 7 months because I took the IELTS test
Okay.
in October, like that. Okay.
Okay.
Past tense, which makes it in the past. All right. Okay. You understand though?
Yes, I
Yeah.
understand.
Okay. Okay. Another use is we've actually looked at a couple of examples already. The cause of something in the past. Cause and effect. Because sentences. Jason was tired because he had been jogging. All right, you're doing something for a long time, so as a result, boom. Okay, Sam gained weight because he had been overeating. Okay, Betty failed the final test because she had not been attending class. All right, cause and effect in the past. It's still the same thing. We're still got the same graphic here to look at, but this green action caused X is the idea. This is pretty common, pretty common way to show to use past perfect continuous, because we do want to emphasize the verb for sure. To emphasize that the person had been doing this for a while, been overeating or jogging or whatever, not been doing something for a while. She'd not been attending class. All right, and so it makes perfect sense to use past perfect continuous here because we want to emphasize this long action that caused something else. Okay, Carolina, you want to try this one? Try forming a sentence that shows cause and effect.
Okay. She lost weight because she had been exercising or doing a diet.
Or what? Huh?
Doing a diet.
Uh,
Can I
okay.
say diet?
Yeah, all right, let me show you something. She had been exercising, and you don't really need to say doing a diet. Okay, it's perfectly all right to say dieting as a verb, to diet.
Dieting.
Yeah, that's perfectly okay. She had been exercising and dieting. Then you said what for? What for 3 months or something?
3 months.
Yeah, whatever. Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, uh, yeah, this is fine. Now, notice something else here in your example. Notice that it's not necessary to use the auxiliaries with when you're using more than one main verb. So this is perfectly okay. She had been exercising and dieting. I don't need to say she had been exercising and had been dieting. Right? It's not necessary. In fact, it sounds weird when you do that. This is perfectly okay as long as you're in the same clause and you're working on the same subject noun. You can have multiple verbs, 2, 3, whatever. You don't need to repeat the auxiliaries every time. In fact, it would be kind of strange to do so. Right, okay. That makes sense. That's fine. All right, Julian, you want to give it a try?
Susan finished the the book because she had been reading all night.
Okay. All right. Great. All right. That's cause and effect. That's great. Julian, the only one thing, careful of the pronunciation. Finished.
Finished.
Yeah. Anytime we
Okay.
finish a verb, the final sound of a verb is an unvoiced sound like SH or S or CH. In a regular verb where we add ED, the ED past tense pronunciation behind an unvoiced sound is T.
And
Finished.
okay, finished.
Okay, washed. I washed my face before I had lunch. Okay. All right. Well, actually, my sentence I just used to express that pronunciation. Before I had lunch. Okay. Guess what? If I'm showing a sequence, all right, I had lunch. This is in the past. Okay. Notice I just used simple past. That is because I'm using before or after. If I after I wash my face, I had lunch. Because I use before or after, I don't really need to use past perfect, even regular past perfect. I had washed my face before I had lunch. This seems like a weird sentence. This would be very strange to use past perfect continuous. I had been washing my face before I had lunch. Sounds weird. Okay. So if you're showing a sequence of events, this and then, and then, and then, and then, and then, if you use before or after, you don't have to worry about using past perfect tenses. Frankly, for past perfect and past perfect continuous, there are often other options. Basically, that you're using it, especially the continuous form, to emphasize the verb. Okay, well, as I was saying, all right. If you do not include a duration, such as for 5 minutes for 2 weeks since Friday, many English speakers choose to use the past continuous rather than the past perfect continuous. All right, this is what I was talking to Carolina about earlier. All right, it can change the meaning of the sentence. Past continuous emphasizes an interrupted action which may continue after, whereas past perfect emphasizes the duration of time before something in the past. So let's take a closer look at that difference. He was tired because he was exercising so hard. All right, we're using just simple past continuous, not perfect. Okay, the sentence emphasizes that he was tired because he was exercising at that exact moment in the middle of his exercising. All right, as opposed to he was tired because he had been exercising so hard. Okay, this emphasizes the period of time, and it would be common to say he was tired because he had been exercising so hard for 3 hours. That's why it's very common to use a phrase with duration. Okay, it is possible that he's just finishing or that he's doing it, but it really, for me, it means that you're talking about right now, and he's probably finished. Would be the reason why you would use that. Any questions about that idea? The slight difference? In reality, okay, in normal conversational English, the reality is no one would ever notice the difference, honestly, because it's only a very subtle and small difference. It's not a big deal. Okay, all right. Something else very important that you have to know when you're dealing with any and all continuous verb tenses. That is the fact that some verbs cannot be used at all, ever, with the ing or continuous tense. Any continuous tense, past, present, future. They simply cannot. There are also mixed verbs, which means it depends on the definition of the verb that you're actually using. So maybe in some cases, under one definition, they can be used as a continuous, and in another definition, they simply cannot. These mixed verb definitions or non-continuous verbs are they're stative verbs is what there are, as opposed to a dynamic verb. A dynamic verb means that there's an action involved. Usually we think of verbs and we think of actions, run, jump, hide, listen, whatever. All of these, any dynamic action verb can be used with continuous tense because you can do that action for a long period of time, obviously. A stative verb or a stative verb meaning describes the state of things. The sky is blue. Okay, I have to use simple present tense. That's the state of my reality as I know it. I cannot say the sky is being blue. Sounds odd, doesn't it? Okay, so when we're talking about the state of things, and that can mean its very existence, it can mean it's used for emotional things like I like chocolate ice cream. I can't say I am liking chocolate ice cream. Like, hate, adore, these kinds of verbs. How things look, appear. He is appearing angry doesn't make sense. He appears angry. And ownership, to own, to possess, to have. When we're talking about ownership, that's a state of an object's existence, that somebody or something owns it. Okay, so these cannot be used in a continuous tense. What happens is you revert back to the next simpler form. So in the case of past perfect and past perfect continuous, for example, the motorcycle had been belonging to George for years before Tina bought it. we just can't do that because to belong, ownership, it's a stative verb. It just can't be used with ing. Instead, the alternative, even though it is duration involved with duration, we just have to use the simpler form. So this is correct. The motorcycle had belonged to George for years before Tina bought it. Okay. So, this is kind of a thing where it's a matter of getting to know what are stative verbs. And it's fairly complicated, but don't worry about it too much because native speakers frequently make mistakes. McDonald's, in the last few years, their slogan was, McDonald's, I'm loving it. Okay, total grammar blunder, but all right, a major corporation did it. These rules are being bent more and more. This is kind of an area of English that's kind of changing. So don't worry about it too much. All right, a quick note about adverb placement. Adverbs that show frequency or duration, like always, only, never, ever, still. Okay. It may be possible to move them around within the sentence structure. However, if you want to be right, again, remember the not in the negative sentence goes behind the first auxiliary. Same with other adverbs and even other descriptive adverbs. Silently, watchfully, whatever. If you want to be right and the adverb, in fact, you're using it to act on the main verb, this is where it belongs and you can't really go wrong. Other times you can move it around and you'd still be right, but you need to be careful because, for example, the sentence as it is, you had only been waiting there for a few minutes when she arrived. If I move that, for example, to the front of the sentence, it totally changes the meaning. Only you had been waiting there. Sometimes you can do this. Sometimes you can't. Sometimes you've been waiting there for only a few minutes when she arrived. That's fine as well. Pretty much the same meaning, but now it's acting on a few. All right. So sometimes it's possible to move these adverbs around, but sometimes it's not without changing the meaning, or sometimes it's just not possible. It sounds really weird. So this is the one place where it's pretty much always going to be okay. Okay, let's look at passive examples and see if we can try this out as well. All right, so far in the class we've only looked at active sentences. Okay, Chef Jones, he's doing the action, he's the subject, had been preparing, okay, object, the restaurant's fantastic dinners, and here's our duration for 2 years before he moved to Paris. All right, standard active sentence example. In the passive, we don't really care about Chef Jones. We don't care about who's doing the action. We can add it by adding a prepositional phrase by Chef Jones, but we use a passive. We don't really care who's doing the action. Notice earlier the object noun is now this in the passive. This is the subject. The restaurant's fantastic dinners had been being prepared by Chef Jones for 2 years before he moved to Paris. Okay, let's look at the actual construction of the passive. Okay, very similar to the active. In the passive, all passives, whenever you form a passive, Remember that the action is happening to the subject noun instead of the subject noun doing the action. The action happens to the subject noun. Okay, the verb itself, the verb form is always the past participle. This is for every passive. Simple future, past continuous, present perfect, it doesn't matter. When using the passive, it's always the past participle of the verb. Just so happens prepared is a regular verb, so that's it. Okay, and we have 3 auxiliaries. The first auxiliaries had been, which indicates we're going to be looking at a past perfect continuous. And then the verb to be is kind of used as a substitute main verb. If we got rid of our main verb prepared and just looked at had been being, we could recognize this as past perfect continuous. Okay. All right, so then we add the main verb, had been being prepared. Okay, although this is not very common, quite honestly. There's going to be other ways to state this. They're usually with an active. It's probably not. You can probably figure out some other way to relate your information without using a passive past perfect continuous. This is going to be fairly rare. It does happen though, so let's give it a try. Let's see if we can at least get the form down. Carolina, you want to give this a shot here?
Okay. I can say the application errors had been solving had been solving
Had been being
had been
solved. Again, we're going for the passive here. So this is the construction had been being solved. The main verb is always going to be the past participle. Okay, but we need more.
By our support team for 5 years.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
Okay, but where is our other kind of action?
Okay. After we contract or hire a new.
Okay.
No, after we bought a new application.
Is after correct here?
Before.
Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. I've been being solved by our support team for 5 years before we bought a new application. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that works. Very good. Yeah. Okay. Very good. It's still, it's still the same exact, the green line with the purple X. It's still the same thing. This action's happening up until another action, which is still in the past before we bought a new application. Oh, okay. Julianne, give it a try, forming the passive.
The club's great events had been being done by my mother for 1 year before she was fired. by she boss by her boss.
Okay. Okay. Okay, the club's great bands had been being done by my mother before she was fired by her boss. This is totally not clear. So I think we got the verb tenses down here. I don't have an issue with that at all. But it's not clear. Done. What do you mean they're done? The
Did
band is done. Okay, no. You've got the verb tense. That's totally correct. Had been, being, and then done, the past participle. But what do you mean? What did she do with these bands? Did she book them?
no events.
Sorry?
Events.
The
Mm,
club's great events?
yes.
Okay. Had been being done by my. Okay. I guess that's okay. You do an event. Okay. Yeah, all right. Maybe planned. Damn it. I guess done is okay. All right. There we go. Right. That was the problem. The verb just didn't fit the noun. All right. The club's great events had been being done by my mother before she was fired by her boss. Something interesting here. Notice in his second clause, this is correct. There's no problem with this sentence. Just worth noting, he also has a simple past passive in his other clause. That's perfectly okay. All right. Uh, all right. Carolina does not. She has a passive, past perfect, continuous, and then a simple past. And Julian has made a past passive. This can happen. This does happen. We just saw it happen. All right. Nothing wrong with that at all. You can be in different clauses be mixing up active and passive verb tenses. So, okay. Very good. Since there's only two of you and we zipped through this lesson pretty fast, and we both kind of struggled with the first usage, we're going to try it again. Why not? Okay. To make sure we got this down, let's try this again. Again, duration before something in the past. Something started in the past, continued up till another time in the past. All right. She had been working at the company for 3 years when it went out of business. They had been talking for over an hour before Tony arrived. I would like to give this one another shot because we kind of struggled a little bit with this basic usage. So Carolina, you want to give this a try?
Okay. My mother had been cooking when um, I don't know, when we had to run to the hospital.
Um, okay. All right. Okay, now see, this definitely seems like an interrupting action. Hey, I had to run to the hospital or emergency run to the hospital. This definitely seems like one thing didn't end and okay, she's done cooking. Let's go to the hospital now. This definitely seems like an interrupting action. So this seems like a sentence which would most likely you would use my mother was cooking, simple past, continuous, when we had to run to the hospital. You know, even when we suddenly had to run to the hospital. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't seem logical that, okay, you know, past perfect continuous is used when something, okay, is the cause of something and then the effect, or it's I did something up until another action. This definitely seems like the kind of unexpected action that happens. In addition, Carolina, it's very common to use this construction with the past continuous and simple past. Interrupting action is super common in English. It's really common. And generally, it's going to use the connectives when or while. When with the interrupting action or the sudden action, and while with an action of duration. Notice in our previous, looking at all our examples, okay, before is used commonly. Okay, we have when. All right, it is possible to use when, but it went out of business. Okay, you know. Okay, let's. All right, take a look at this sentence. Now, some sentences, look, your sentence, it's pretty obvious you have to run to the hospital. That's an interrupting sudden action. So it seems to me much more likely to use a past continuous to show that, oh my God, suddenly in the middle of her cooking we had to do this. Let's look at this other one with when here. Okay, she had been working at that company for 3 years when it went out of business. Okay, this kind, without the implication of this sentence, which uses past perfect continuous, and it's a subtle difference. Maybe I haven't explained it well enough, but the implication to me is that, okay, the closing of the business was planned. She knew it in advance. She worked up until the plant closed or the business closed. And she worked continuously for 3 years anyway, up until that time, and then she didn't work again. As opposed to, all right, that's what I would assume. As opposed to, if I change this to she was working at that company for 3 years when it went out of business, this says to me she'd had no idea. They did not tell the staff that they were going out of business. Wham! Sudden interrupting action that was unplanned, unscheduled, unforeseen. Do you see the subtle difference there?
I think yes, teacher, but for me that kind of verb tense is a little bit difficult.
Uh-huh.
So
Okay.
I have to read more about it.
Okay. Just keep it simple. Think about the way I think of it as a native speaker. When I see this construction with the past continuous, I am assuming she did not know. She walked in and they said, hey, guess what? You don't work here anymore. We're closing. But when I see the earlier version, the past perfect continuous, my automatic assumption in my English-speaking brain is that she knew about this 3 months in advance or whatever. She knew that the business was going out of business. They planned to go out of business, and she worked up until they stopped the business. That would be my automatic assumption.
Okay.
All right. So, all right. So look at it that way. Is the event like a complete surprise? They've been talking for over an hour before Tony arrived. I assume immediately that they know Tony's going to arrive. If I change this, they were talking for over an hour before Tony arrived, I would assume they did not know Tony was coming. And he
Okay.
interrupted there. You see, that's it. That's it. Is it a surprise or not?
Okay.
Uh,
I got it.
okay. All right. Julian, you want to give it a try? One more time.
Yes. Yes, my sister had been watching TV until my father arrived arrived to the house.
When?
Until what? Okay.
Until, yes. Let's try another connective. Thank you. Let's see if it works or not.
Until my father arrived to the house. I can see in this point I can see arrive to home.
No.
Okay.
Okay. First of all, not to the house. It should be at the house. He arrived at the mall. He arrived at the train station. He arrived at work. Okay. Just with arrived, we don't use to with arrive, no matter where we're
Yes.
going. Okay.
Yes, I'm thinking too.
Right.
Okay, I can use arrive at home.
So my father arrived at home. Yes, you
Okay.
can. What you can never do, though, never say to home. Okay, I went home. I came home. Uh, okay, I went to the mall. I went to the bus station. I went to France. Whatever.
Okay.
Uh, we can never use to with home. You can use at
Okay.
with home. Yeah, I'm at home. Come on over. I'm at home. Uh, yes, you can use at with home, but you can't ever use to with home.
Oh, only maybe until my father arrived home
Arrived? No, I think arrived at home.
with the okay with that with preposition. Okay.
Yeah, would be better.
Okay.
Okay, now wait a minute. Let's look at the rest here. My sister had been watching TV until my father arrived at the house. Hmm. I don't think it's necessary here because we have until. So this very clearly expresses the fact. Okay. Well, I guess it's okay, but it's not really necessary. Again, okay. Yeah. See, I would just use a simple tense here. My sister watched TV until my father arrived at the house. Why? Why would I do that? Because, again, the other thing about using the continuous tense is that we really want to stress the fact that somebody's doing something for a long period of time. So this sounds a little strange to me, unless, you know, for 6 solid hours. Okay, now it makes perfect sense. Okay, it seems a little off to me because it seems like before I added this time phrase of duration, it seemed like why are you emphasizing, okay, fine, she watched TV for a little while, when it seems like the emphasis should be on the outcome, which is the father arriving at the house. So it seems a little odd, like you're throwing the emphasis in the wrong direction. So the sentence seems slightly off to me. But by adding this time phrase, now it makes it obvious why you're emphasizing the verb. Oh my God, all right, so she needs to get out and get some exercise or whatever. Okay, she's watching TV for a long period of time. Okay, which is why. So many of our examples, it sounds a little off. Sometimes when you use past perfect continuous, it's going to sound a little off if we don't have this duration. Because then the listener doesn't understand, why are you emphasizing this verb? Sure, it's a continuous action, but what's the point of emphasizing it? Okay. Right. The idea being, you can get away from you don't have to use past perfect continuous. You can avoid it. But the whole reason you use it is just to point to the whole idea that there's been a long duration of time. Oh, he'd been working there for 17 years before they fired him. Okay, you really want to emphasize all his work. Some verbs are going to be very common to show duration, like wait. Some verbs are going to be impossible, like arrive. Arrive is a fast action. You obviously have no, shoot. If you shoot someone with a gun, it's not like a slow action. Bam, you're dead. That's it. So there's no way you're going to have, he had been shooting the president. It doesn't even make sense. It's a quick action. It's never going to happen. So a lot of times also the verb itself. Is it a verb that takes time, or is it a verb like that? If it's a verb like that, then there's no way you can use it. You're not going to use a continuous tense. It doesn't make any sense. Okay. Okay, the class had been going on for an hour. Okay, so when the teacher had to close it. Okay, I have to go. Thank you very much.